Welcome back to the Press Box. Mark Haskell, Zack Miller here. We finally have got some local stuff to talk about.
Finally, feels like it's been forever.
I know, seriously. Don't get me wrong. I love talking about, the Bruins and Celtics and the Red Sox. Well, maybe not the Red Sox quite so much. We'll talk about the Red Sox next week. We got too much going on to talk about their implosion.
And everybody knows that they suck so far.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Has not looked good. But who has looked good is the Oceanside softball team, and notably. Show fan Chloe Jones.
Yep.
She got her 500th career strikeout in Oceanside softball's season opening win over Maranicook on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Wednesday.
Yesterday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
And Zach was there. So Zach, kind of tell us a little bit about those two games. Obviously, particularly, Chloe's big moment. I'm sure you talked to her after the game.
Oh yeah, I talked to her after the game. We all know that she's a great pitcher. She's been pitching really well for the Mariners for the past 3 years. She was KVAC Player of the Year last year, I believe. And yesterday, she just picked up where she left off. She had 14 strikeouts. She gave up one hit, which was a bunt down the third base line. Grace Pratt fielded it, but the runner beat her throw to first, and that was the only hit of the game. It wasn't a hit, single or double or triple.
It
wasn't a hard hit.
It's a hit. She got on.
But it wasn't a hard hit ball, is what I'm trying
right,
to say.
Yeah.
But that was the only hit she gave up. She mowed down 14 players. In her 14th K was the last batter of the game, which was also her 500th strikeout, according to Rusty Worcester.
The very last at-bat of the game.
Yeah, very last at-bat of the game. She was just mowing people down. She has a fastball. She has a wicked changeup that just looks like it just kind of floats. Takes about 8 seconds to get to the plate, and then she has a curveball, too. And I'm sure she has a host of other pitches that I don't know about, but she's just a heck of a pitcher.
And she's going where to play?
AIC.
AIC.
American International College in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Yep, so that's where she'll be off to. Yeah. And you said that you talked to Rusty, and Rusty didn't think that she was going to get it. Thought she'd get close, but didn't think she'd hit the milestone.
No, he said that she might have 10, 12 Ks, but he didn't think she'd get the 14. He was very impressed with her pitching performance, especially in the first game of the season, and it was also the first time that either the Oceanside baseball or softball teams were out on the field this year.
Right.
Probably goes to saying for all the baseball and softball teams in the state of Maine, because we've had snow late in the season and trying to get it to melt and everything like that. But to strike out 14 batters, give up one hit in your season opening performance in the circle is pretty good for the season.
Mid-season form, which is where you want to be, obviously, early
but
in the season.
On the other side, you talk about her performance, but the girl that pitched for Maranicook only gave up 3 hits to Oceanside as well. And they scored 2 runs out of it and won 2-0 over Maranicook. But just good base running, a couple stolen bases for Abby Vayu and a couple of the other girls with timely base running, which and timely hitting was the difference there.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit. What about the Oceanside baseball team? Obviously, they were also in the same boat as the Mariners softball team. Really, were not able to get any work in on their field, so a lot of just in the gym kind of stuff. What did you see from the baseball team?
Well, it's actually a funny story. I was talking to a couple of the Oceanside assistant coaches during the half innings, the break-in innings, and they said that when the baseball team got here, when they all got here, that they had to warm up in the gym because Caribou and Kent Hill are playing a baseball game earlier and it hadn't ended yet. So they still didn't get any time to warm up on a field. They had to warm up in the gym. It was at the Herald and Tom or Tim Athletic Complex, which is right next to Kent Hill School out in Kent Hill. So they were warming up in there, and then they had to come out onto the field. And then Maranicook scored 5 runs in the first inning and 5 more runs in the second inning, and they were down 10-0. But they scored. Oceanside scored 2, I think, in the second, and they scored another 4 in the sixth. But Maranicook scored 2 more in the sixth inning to go. They won 12-6 eventually. But Don Shields, despite the loss, said that he was pretty happy with the team's play because, like you said before, they hadn't been on the field at all for preseason. They had no preseason games this year because they were all canceled.
Right.
We have articles up on our Knox.Village website, comments from both Rusty and Dawn and Chloe from her pitching performance as well. So go ahead, read them. Photos, video, the whole shebang's right there.
And from games I hit as well, I also hit the Vinyl Haven Temple Academy softball games, and those were held at Colby College, again on turf.
Yep.
It's teams all around the state are just looking for turf to get their games, so we got a story on those. And also the Camden Mount Blue baseball and softball doubleheader. That's also up on our website as well. So let's shift gears from the local stuff, and I guess we're going to talk some Masters.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of made
somebody with a big name won that tournament.
We kind of made light of it last week, kicking off the show with the Jim Nance music and everything like that. Thinking it would just be some no-name guy to win it, but it's this guy by the name of Tiger Woods. Came back and won the Masters for the first time in over a decade. I know you've got the stats right there. Just to tell me a little bit about what I'm sure a lot of us saw. At least some of on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, well, watching his performance was, watching the Tiger of old. He's 42 or 43 years old. I think he's the second or oldest to ever win a major at that age. And you have to be honest, nobody thought that Tiger was going to win going in because he hasn't. He's had the back problems. And we have leg problems or something like that too. Hip problems.
Obviously some serious mental problems and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
what, 10 years ago.
Off the course stuff with his wife and DUIs and just like his career really seemed to be taking a nosedive. He'd won a couple of tournaments, but never a major.
Yeah.
It had been a long time since he'd won a major. So I mean, to put it bluntly, it's a major deal. Him coming back and winning a tournament like this.
Yeah, this is the first time, like you said. It's actually 11 years ago was his last time he won a major, and obviously 11 years ago he was in his prime, and then he took the nosedive down into oblivion, and then had all the off the course problems, and then on the course problems with injuries, and he just played unbelievable. The Tiger of old in the final round with against Francesco Molinari and Tony Finau. And Molinari and Finau on, I forget what hole it was, 15 or 16, and they both wound up in the water and got double bogeys out of that hole, and Tiger wound up taking the lead. Woods obviously finished first, and then there was a three-way tie for second. Dustin Johnson, Xander Schauffele, and Brooks Koepka all finished tied for second, and then Jason Day, Tony Finau, and Francesco Molinari were all tied for fifth. So to think about it, Francesco Molinari, Tony Finau, and Woods were the final, the leaders,
the final grouping.
The final grouping and the leaders in the last day, and then Woods he didn't really have any problems on the 18th. He just kind of laid up. He played everything conservatively, the way he was supposed to do.
Right.
And then he got it, and
the
crowd erupted, which was always fun.
His second shot on 18, when it went into the rough, I kind of went, oh no, like maybe this isn't going to happen. But when he got onto well, that was exciting.
Yeah, a little technical difficulties there.
Yeah, that's the first time it's really ever happened to us.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We're back. We're still talking Masters. Everything's great.
Blue Man Group took over.
The Blue Man Group. Yeah, it was. I was like, blue. I see blue up there. Is that bad? Is that good or is that bad?
Yeah, we're good. Nope, it's actually pretty bad.
We did a survey. It's bad. It's really bad. But now we're back. Obviously, Tiger, when he was coming out of the rough after that second shot on 18, I was kind of worried, maybe he's going to fold right here. But then he did the right thing. He kind of laid up onto the green, and he had a long putt for par that I just felt like he was going to make. And it just slipped out, and he tapped in to win. But, me, full disclosure, I didn't watch the whole Masters. I was actually with my family down in an indoor water park in Massachusetts. But I was getting prompts on my phone that said, Tiger Woods is leading with 5 holes to play. And I'm just like, well, kids, maybe we better go up and have lunch. What do you guys think?
Time for a nap.
Yeah, so we went upstairs and the Masters is on. So I just happened to catch him just tee off on 16 and just lip the cup and just almost with a hole in one. It was so damn close. So that was kind of where I jumped in. I got to watch the last 3 holes. But you watched a lot of the Masters.
Yeah, I did watch a lot of that. I've actually watched most of the final round was just watching these guys. It's unbelievable watching these guys play, by the way. There's a par 5 hole, and they're on the green in 2 shots, and they have a chance for an eagle. I saw that multiple times in the final round, and it's just amazing. They need to make these holes longer or something for some of these guys because the game the physicality of the game has stepped up so much that, like I said, they're going for eagles on par 5s, which to me and you, that's like, wow, that's amazing. But for these guys, it's nothing because of the weight training and all this health and nutrition that they have nowadays. It's not golf of old. This is like a new age of golf with strength and conditioning and everything that these guys train for.
Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely.
that's a story for another time now.
Yeah, but obviously it's a big win for Tiger Woods, and it's going to be interesting to see because the Masters kind of kicks off the official golf season. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see. He's only a couple wins away on majors from Jack Nicklaus.
Yeah,
now.
Tiger has 15 majors after his Masters win.
And Nicklaus has how many? I think it's 17?
16 or 17.
Okay, yeah,
like
so he's close.
I think it is 17.
So he's close. I mean, who knows? I mean, he could go on another, run here late in his career, and he could catch him. I mean, a couple years ago, the idea of him catching Jack Nicklaus was crazy.
Yeah.
And now here we are.
Yeah, because no one thought he was ever going to do it after all the stuff he went through. But here we are.
Yeah.
Tiger's winning, and it's good to see. It's good for the game of golf. And speaking of the Tiger Woods effect, there's a little cool stat that I pulled that I found online. It must all be true, by the way, if it's found online. Average of 10.8 million people watched the CBS coverage of the final round, which is the most since 1987 when Nielsen started keeping the ratings for golf. The previous high for a morning golf broadcast was 8.56 million for ABC's 2000 British Open. By the way, the winner of that was Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
So the Tiger effect is
it's no question. He is great for the sport. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Everybody from Rory McIlroy all the way down to that random guy who I said was winning after 2 holes last week.
Exactly.
They're all happy that he's there and doing well again, because if Tiger's doing well, the rest of them are doing well too.
And you could tell by the fans that were there. They just lined the holes. Every single hole that Tiger was at, even the holes that he wasn't at, they were just lined with people. It's the most I've ever seen at a tournament, I think, ever.
Well, let's shift gears. We got to talk a little bit about the Celtics. Obviously, we just Game 2 is in the books right now. Boston with a comeback win last night, 99-91 win over Indiana. They now have a 2-0 series lead. Series shifts to Indiana for Game 3. Boston trailed for a lot of this game, and you were really kind of thinking, geez, or maybe we're going to go back to Indiana with a split, but then Kyrie Irving, man.
He stepped it up in the playoffs.
Holy moly, 37 points.
How many weeks have we talked about they have to step it up in the playoffs? Well, we can just turn it on for the playoffs. Kyrie turned it on last night.
Yeah.
He had 37. Jason Tatum had 26. Obviously, he was overshadowed by Kyrie's 37, and Kyrie was just draining everything left and right.
Yeah.
This is Kyrie. And
No, it was like a Kyrie Irving highlight reel. It was unbelievable. I mean, we've been kind of giving him crap the last few weeks, just because it's just the Kyrie effect. These last few months of the regular season has not been great for Boston.
Yeah.
But if they can somehow channel this momentum that they've got going right now, I mean, I'm not saying that they can beat Milwaukee, but I'm saying, maybe they've got a puncher's chance. I mean, maybe some of these Milwaukee players that haven't, assuming Milwaukee beats Detroit, which let's
I think they will.
I think they will,
2-0.
obviously, right?
And they've won by an average of like 20 points or something, 25 points.
A lot of these Milwaukee players, including Antetokounmpo, is that how we say it?
Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, there you go. You love saying that name.
It's a fun name to say.
He's never really been in a deep playoff run either. So I mean, maybe something crazy can happen. But obviously, 37 points from Kyrie, you can't depend on that every single night.
No, not at all. Because you have to have someone step up. Like Tatum did last night. He had 26 points. He made a big three at the end of the game to put the Celtics up.
But actually, that was the play before that was the nice block by Horford, who was saying they might.
He had the flu too.
Yeah, he might not even play in the game.
Yeah,
and he came back, and obviously Indiana, they responded. I think Celtics went on like a 16-0 run or something in the fourth, and Indiana responded. Bogdanovich played well. Thaddeus Young had 15. So, I mean, they rallied, and then Horford had the block. They get it down to Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown swings it to Tatum and hits the three, and then they go ahead for good. And that shot was just like, holy moly, that whole sequence. We need to see a lot more of that, over the next few games with Indiana, obviously. Because, like I said, Kyrie is awesome, but we can't count on him scoring 37 every night to win this series.
If he did, then the Celtics will have no problem getting past Indiana.
Right, yeah.
Going back to the third quarter, the Celtics were in trouble. The Pacers held a 70-58, a 12-point advantage in the third quarter. Indiana used a 10-0 run with Darren Collison scoring 7 of those points. And then Indiana led 79-68 entering the fourth quarter. And I was watching both games. I was switching back between the Celtics and the Bruins because they were both on at the same time. And I was thinking, man, the Celtics, they're just sucking pond water right now in the third quarter. Because in game one, Indiana had sucked pond water in the first game in the third quarter, and the Celtics took a page out of that playbook. But then Indiana did the choke artist again in the fourth quarter. They only scored, 12 points? 12 points in the fourth quarter. And they scored 8 points in the third quarter of game one. So you can kind of see the second half of the game. One of the quarters hasn't been going well for Indiana. But then, like you said, Boston used a 16-0 run in the fourth quarter with 8 straight points from Kyrie to get them back into contention and the lead. And then they kind of went back and forth for a minute or two, and then Boston just closed it out thanks to Tatum's three.
Is the series over?
I don't think so. I think the Celtics will lose at least one game in Indiana. Last night
probably a split and then win it in Game 5.
Just think if Indiana scored 5 more points. 5 or 6 more points in the fourth quarter, they would have won the game.
Yeah.
Down the stretch, the Celtics made their free throws.
I mean, and the Pacers are a proud team. I mean, think about it. I mean, this is a team that knocked LeBron around quite a bit last year. Like LeBron. I mean, that Cavs Pacers series went 7.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So the Pacers aren't going to just lay down for Boston. But I kind of feel like they're going to have a split in Indiana and then probably Game 5.
I think so.
I think Boston's going to wrap it up.
I think they will too. And if the Celtics step up their play one more notch, I think they'll sweep and then they'll go into the second round where they'll face Milwaukee, and that's a bigger problem.
That's going to be.
We'll tackle that if they get there.
Yeah, that would be a big matchup. I mean, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. That's what the Tampa Bay Lightning did.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a segue. So let's talk about the Boston Bruins. Obviously, everybody was saying it's going to be Bruins Lightning in the second round, but the Bruins are having their hands full with the Maple Leafs. I mean, it's 2-2 series is all tied up right now. Obviously, the Bruins get one back last night. They get a late empty net goal. Just what were your thoughts? I didn't get a lot of the Bruins last night. But just what were your thoughts kind of on the game? And Pasternak scored a couple goals, and Chara had a goal from the blue line.
Yep.
So just kind of tell me a little bit about the Bruins.
Well, I watched most of the Bruins game too, going back and forth. So you gotta have to pick and choose pick your poison, so to speak, because it looked like the Bruins got out to a 2-0 lead really early in the game. You're like, oh, this is pretty good, and I'm glad they did, because if they hadn't, they would have lost the game. And then because they gave up 2 goals, tie game, and then one pretty late in the first period too, with a couple seconds to go, and then they gave up another one in. At the very beginning of the second period, like a minute and a half, 2 minutes in, and then it was a tie game, and you're like, well, great, here's the Tuukka Rask that we've come to expect. But then Tuukka also had a really nice save, which turned out to be pretty critical, because it stopped a point-blank shot. He stopped it with his leg or something like that, and I was like, it's like the game-saving shot. There's always one play in the game where you can look back and say that was the play that turned the page for the game.
Right.
And that one stop that Tuukka made with a big open net above his leg, it obviously proved to be the game winner, because Toronto came back and they were down, 5-2, something like that, after Chara scored, and they came back and rattled off 2 goals within a span of 2 minutes in the third period, and thinking, here we go again.
Yeah.
Bruins are going to give up a lead, but then they held strong, and then they got that open net goal from Joakim Nordstrom scored it with like 2 seconds left. And they wound up winning 6-4, so now, they have home ice advantage again, which is nice to see. So they got 2 more games in Boston and 2 more in one more.
It goes Boston, Toronto, Boston.
Yeah, I'm just talking about in general.
Right.
But yeah, back to Boston.
Obviously, you kind of thought that that Kadri, the guy from Toronto that got suspended for the cross-check in Game 2, kind of felt like the series might shift on that. But then in Game 3, Toronto comes out and they get a win right there. You're kind of thinking, maybe Boston's going to capitalize on this. I mean, obviously, Kadri didn't like the hit that DeBrusk had on Patrick Marleau. And it was blatantly cross-checking.
Oh, yeah.
He took the stick and went right up in the neck and head. And he's a guy that has a history of this kind of behavior. So I think the NHL did the right thing, suspending him for the rest of the series. I think he got suspended for a few games in the Bruins Maple Leaf series last year.
Yeah, somebody did. I can't remember who it was, though.
Yeah. But obviously, I think that I said Bruins in 6, so I'm going to stick with it. You know what I mean? But obviously, now,
I think I said Bruins in 6 too, but I think I'm going to change it. I think the Bruins in 7. I think it's going to go 7.
I think we did initially both say 6. Now I'm actually not sure on this, because NHL is not my forte, but do they reseed after hockey? I know they don't do it for basketball. So does this mean that Boston will get Columbus?
They would get Columbus, yeah.
They would get Columbus.
It's all based on the bracket.
Okay, all right, yeah, because
at least they don't reseed as far as I know, but
right.
I don't ever remember them doing that.
Right, because football reseeds. Like whoever the lowest seed is will play the highest seed, that kind of thing. It's not necessarily a bracket. But
maybe they do. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure either. We'll have to double check on that.
But if they get Columbus, that's nice to have. If Boston wins, you have 2 straight series, because everyone thought that the Bruins were going to go play.
Boston had a late series win against Columbus. I think that was like a 6-2 win. Not that that's indicative of how a 7-game playoff series is going to go, but obviously you feel good about Boston's chances not having to go up against like the team that the winningest team in regular season history in the Tampa Bay Lightning, getting swept out in 4 games. Getting swept out in 4 games, and they had a 3-0 lead in Game 1.
I know.
How does that happen?
I don't know. Columbus wanted it more.
Yeah, I guess so.
Also, big stat from last night was the Bruins were 2 for 2 on the power play, while Toronto was 1 for 3. So 2 power plays, 2 goals, proved to be big. Good to see.
Got to take advantage of those moments when you get them. But
Game
for now,
5 is tomorrow.
Game 5 is in Boston. So we'll be chatting more next week. We may be previewing the next series, which maybe it's Columbus, maybe it's not. I don't know who they're going to be playing. I think it's Columbus, but
we'll find out.
But until then, we'll talk some more local stuff next week as well. Everything's going to get into full swing next week. So until then, I'm Mark. This is Zach. And this has been the Press Box.